La 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 la, wait till I get my money right.
I had a dream I could buy my way to heaven. When I awoke, I spent that on a necklace. I told God I'll be back in a second. Man, it's so hard not to act reckless. To whom much is given, much is tested. Get arrested, guess until he get the message. I feel the pressure under more scrutiny. And what I do, act more stupidly. Bought more jewelry, more Louis V. My mama couldn't get through to me. The drama, people suing me.
All right.
TV talking like it's just you and me. I'm just saying how I feel, man.
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to a special, very short and abbreviated version episode of Geopolitics with Ghost. Yeah, sorry for the delay. I just had some stuff going on here that I needed to address. So originally I was going to do this show because on Badlands Daily this morning, we didn't get to cover any of the other geopolitical stories that I had been tracking. However, this press conference from Netanyahu is pretty interesting. I guess I can kind of just do a rapid fire of the stories that I wanted to cover, and then we can play the Netanyahu press conference. Let's see. So let's just jump into it real quick. So one element we haven't discussed in a long time is, let me make sure I have the right. Yeah, it looks like we're good with everything. The Congo. We haven't talked about DR Congo in a while. This is from April 3rd, so about 5 days ago. Islamic State-linked militants killed dozens in DR Congo assault. Authorities have blamed Allied Democratic Forces fighters for a deadly attack. At least 43 people have been killed in an attack by ISIS in the DR Congo, the army said on Thursday. The Congolese armed forces attributed the attack to the ADF, the Allied Democratic Forces, originally a Ugandan Islamist group. It has waged a violent insurgency in eastern Congo for decades and pledged allegiance to Islamic State, formerly ISIS, in 2019. The group's fighters have been blamed for massacres, kidnappings, and bombings. Officials told Reuters that the assault occurred around 7 p.m. local time in the village of Mombasa, near the town of Nyania. And so something tells me if we pull up Nyania, let's go to Google Maps, because, I think this is probably all tied to the M23 people. DR Congo. Okay. So here's Nyania. Yeah, and so this is like right in the same region that we're dealing with. Because remember, these people have been, M23 was operating in this area, Goma and Bukavu. They were also operating down here by Burundi in the Uvira province, or Uvira town, and then there was also ISIS linked or Al Qaeda linked affiliates operating up here near in this whole region up here near Uganda. So this is kind of an extension of that. Again, I think this is deep state angry that President Trump took away their access to the rare earth minerals. Most of the rare earth minerals that are in circulation come from this territory right here, the eastern coast or eastern border region of the DR Congo. So I think that's what we're looking at, is we're just looking at more of the same. This is them angry that Trump is working against them there. Okay. And then the other story that was pretty big was this one. The UBS loses bid to limit liability for Nazi-linked crimes. U.S. judges' ruling shows. This is all connected to the 2023 Credit Suisse collapse. The Swiss government forced UBS to buy out Credit Suisse. They were competitors. And it says right here, U.S. District Judge Edward Corman in Brooklyn, New York, said UBS was seeking an advisory opinion and protecting it from hypothetical lawsuits that have not been filed. Quote, until a genuine case or controversy arises that requires judicial interpretation of its term, the agreement will continue to speak for itself, wrote Corman, who oversaw the 1999 settlement. A U.S. judge on Tuesday rejected UBS's bid to clarify a $1.25 billion settlement from 1999 of Holocaust-related litigation against Swiss banks by shielding it from claims based on new revelations about Nazi-linked accounts. The Simon Wiesenthal Center, a Jewish human rights group, had argued that UBS proposal would improperly expand the settlement to encompass newly uncovered facts about banks' dealings with the Third Reich. UBS sought Corman's intervention after an investigation commissioned in 2020 by the former Credit Suisse uncovered additional ties between that bank, its predecessors, and Nazis, including 890 accounts with potential Nazi links. The $1.25 billion was paid out by UBS and Credit Suisse and distributed to more than 458,000 Nazi victims and their families. In a statement, UBS said nothing in the judge's opinion contradicts our reading of the 1999 settlement agreement. Lawyers for the Simon Wiesenthal Center did not immediately respond to requests for comment. Okay, so, and it says UBS bought Credit Suisse and a Swiss government arranged emergency takeover in 2023. So, like the TLDR, the bullet points here, the 2020 commission, or the 2020 thing that was set up, that was when Credit Suisse hired a guy named, I think it was David Borofsky is his name, a former U.S. prosecutor. He's the guy who was commissioned by the Senate in 2008 to investigate the TARP payments that Obama made, the $3 trillion that was given to the banks, the too big to fail. And he's the one who came back and said, this is all a scam. The taxpayers are getting fleeced. They're never going to get that money back. That's never going to get repaid by the banks. He also has investigated the mortgage fraud, backed securities issues, and other financial crimes that have occurred from the banks. So he was uniquely set up, I think, to look at this very objectively. Again, Credit Suisse brings this guy on as an internal investigator so they could figure out. They wanted to wrap their arms around these accounts. They didn't quite understand what they had in their books. And so he goes in, he starts digging around. And then in 2022, 2 years later, he comes back and says, I found a lot more than what you had originally, the scope you had originally given me. And Credit Suisse got very upset. Whatever he found, they fired him. And then around that same time, 2020, the Senate was approached by, this is Chuck Grassley and Sheldon Whitehouse were approached by Jewish advocacy groups that were worried that Credit Suisse had billions of dollars of Nazi gold and cash in their coffers. And so then the Senate formed its own investigative committee. Somehow they were put in contact with David Borofsky in 2022 after Credit Suisse fired him. And so once Credit Suisse, it became clear that they were collapsing. That was the end of 2022, early 2023. And then the Swiss government arranged for Credit Suisse to take over, or for UBS to buy out Credit Suisse. Chuck Grassley sent a letter to UBS saying, you better rehire David Borofsky and give him full scope to look into everything. And they said, yes, we will do that. So Borofsky came back on. He testified in the Senate, I think 2 months ago, and said he's found a lot of stuff that is much bigger than just Nazi bank accounts. And he's expected to deliver a full report later this year. My expectation is that this is going to connect all this stuff, these banks, to the cartels. And this is going to be like an explosive revelation for the general public, because they're going to learn that these banks are actually just criminal organizations, no different than the cartels themselves. Okay. I think for now, that's probably all we really need to hit on. South Korea and North Korea had some interesting things happening there. Nothing too notable. Just, what was it? It was South Korea apologizes to North Korea for drone incursions. So this is interesting. This new guy, President Lee Jae-myung, who's been accused of being a communist, but he's very much been pro-Trump and remember he signed the big bilateral trade deal with Trump last year. He's been very apologetic to North Korea. I think this is a sign that North Korea and South Korea are going to have a unification. I'm just getting that feeling. We'll see. We'll see. But very interesting developments there. All right. So now I want to play the Netanyahu and appreciate Jessica putting this on my radar. So Netanyahu did a press conference earlier today. And let's see, we're going to play it here. It's not long. It's like the whole video is 13 minutes. And I think that includes that includes like waiting 3 minutes for him. So he probably speaks for like 10 minutes. So we're just going to watch, assuming it's, oh no, it's in, well, that's no good. It's in Hebrew. Let's see. I thought that was going to be in English. Let me see if I can search this. Netanyahu normally does these in English and Hebrew. So let me see if I can find it in English. Just bear with me for a second. Okay, so here's Netanyahu posting about this online in English. But again, we have a Hebrew translation. I was really hoping to hear this in English. Let's see if we can get. I'm gonna try one more thing. Okay, so let's just look at some of Barack Ravid's posts lately. So he says 2 hours ago, this is all like him rapid posting all this stuff. Okay, so he's reposting this guy, Nadav Eyal. It says, Iran already won its most important war 2 years ago, and almost no one talks about it. It was the war against Israeli-Palestinian peace. The peace process failed for many reasons, but Iran's contribution was essential. It is the only country in the world that made the destruction of a compromise its manifest destiny. The terms of any agreement ending this conflict will be shaped by whether we understand that history or ignore it. And this is The Atlantic. So yeah, take that for what it's worth. The strange thing about this is that I've seen this happening for a while. They're trying to rewrite the history of the October 7th attack, and instead of it being the Muslim Brotherhood, which is a Sunni Islam group, they're now saying it was Iran that actually did October 7th, which is a Shia country. Again, it's just very inconsistent. It can't be the Muslim Brotherhood and Iran. Those are two totally different things. The Muslim Brotherhood comes from Egypt. It's Sunni. It is not even congruent with like the radical extremists in Iran. They are just two totally different separate things. And now they're trying to say that it was Iran that did October 7th. I think this is just rewriting history. Okay, so here's Barack Ravid. Behind the scenes, a senior U.S. official said Netanyahu raised the issue of Lebanon in a phone call with President Trump shortly before the announcement of the ceasefire. Trump and Netanyahu agreed during the call that the fighting in Lebanon could continue, a U.S. official and Israeli official said. The U.S. official said the White House is not currently concerned that the situation in Lebanon would cause the ceasefire with Iran to collapse. Then Barack Ravid posts and says, the U.S. and Israel learned of an intriguing development on Monday with President Trump's ultimatum looming. Supreme Leader Majtaba Khomeini had instructed his negotiators for the first time since the war began to move towards a deal, according to 3 sources with knowledge. And then I assume that he is quoting Netanyahu from that Hebrew press conference. We are ready to war with Iran at any moment. Our fingers on the trigger. The ceasefire was coordinated with Israel. We were not notified in the last minute. So that's Netanyahu basically saying him and Trump are working together as always. And then Barack Ravid says on Monday morning, as Trump worked the crowd at a White House Easter celebration, a very angry Steve Witkoff was working the phones. The U.S. envoy told the mediators the 10-point counter proposal the U.S. had just received from Iran was a disaster, a catastrophe. A source with direct knowledge said that began a chaotic day of amendments with the Pakistani mediators passing new drafts between Witkoff and Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi and the Egyptian and Turkish foreign ministers trying to help bridge gaps. By Monday night, the mediators had U.S. approval for an updated proposal for a 2-week ceasefire. It was then up to Khomeini, whom sources said was actively involved in the process on Monday and Tuesday, to make a decision. The next post says Vice President Vance will lead the American negotiating team for talks with Iran. White House spokesperson Caroline Leavitt said envoys Jared Kushner and Steve Witkoff will also participate in the negotiations. The first round of talks will take place on Saturday morning in Islamabad. Next post from an hour later, Vice President Vance will head the U.S. negotiating team with talks with Iran. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt said Trump's envoys, Jared Kushner and Witkoff will participate. Yeah, he already posted that. He posted that twice for some reason. Okay, and then he's reposting from March 23rd. An Israeli official told me the mediating countries were trying to convene a meeting in Islamabad. So this is him kind of reposting what he had already said a few weeks ago. And then the Speaker of Iran's parliament, Mohammad Bagher Ghalibaf, who is expected to lead the Iranian delegation to the summit with the U.S. in Islamabad on Saturday, claimed 3 out of the 10 clauses in the U.S.-Iran agreed upon framework have been violated, and therefore a bilateral ceasefire or negotiations is unreasonable. He mentioned that the first violation was regarding the ceasefire in Lebanon, which was a commitment mentioned by the Prime Minister of Pakistan in his statement announcing the ceasefire. The second violation, he claimed, was the entry of a drone into Iranian airspace. And the third violation was Trump's statement, which denies Iran's right to enrichment, which was included in the 6th clause of the framework. He posted that twice. I think he's posting it in Hebrew and in English. Okay, and then his report on Axios about Vance leading the U.S. delegation. So they're basically just positioning Vance to be kind of the hero of the day. Whether he is or not is inconsequential, as far as I'm concerned. I think all this stuff has probably been negotiated to some extent before all this. I don't think this is all being worked out on the fly as we're being told. The enrichment thing is ridiculous. Like, of course, Iran is going to enrich uranium. They have to enrich uranium if they want energy. If they want their nuclear power plants to run. It's very silly to assume that they're not going to enrich uranium. And I think that we're moving the goalposts, or at least the neocons are moving the goalposts consistently. First, it was about them not getting a nuclear weapon. Now it's about them not having any nuclear energy at all. That is insane. Iran would be foolish to accept that premise and sign an agreement that would be enforceable internationally, where it says we're not allowed to have any nuclear energy whatsoever. That's insane. And again, I think when Trump says that stuff, he is parroting the talking points of the Zionists, and it's really putting the absurdity of it on a platform where everyone can look at it and say, this is stupid, this is insane. We shouldn't be doing this. So anyway, my position continues to be consistent that I think Trump's playing games with Israel. He's playing games. Let me see, Israeli Prime Minister. I'm just trying to see if I can find this press conference in English. Okay, here we go. Yeah, so here it is. I knew it. He puts it out in English all the time too. Wait, this is 9 months ago.
Citizens of Israel, I want to
All right, here it is. It's translated here, so we'll listen to this.
thank you. I want to thank our wonderful people. As you showed resilience, as you sat in safe rooms and shelters, we achieved great accomplishments together. Our fighters at the front and you on the home front. But first of all, I wish to bow my head to our loved ones who fell in this campaign, to embrace the bereaved families, and to send on behalf of all of you wishes for a speedy recovery to our wounded. My brothers and sisters, the State of Israel has achieved tremendous accomplishments that until recently seemed completely imaginary. Iran is weaker than ever, Israel is stronger than ever. That is the bottom line of this campaign up to this moment. And I want to convey that we have more goals to complete, and we will achieve them either by agreement or by resuming the fighting. Because we are ready to return to combat at any moment required. The finger is on the trigger. As you know, tonight a temporary 2-week ceasefire between the United States and Iran went into effect, in full coordination with Israel. No, they did not surprise us at the last moment. Now I wish to emphasize that this is not the end of the campaign. This is a station on the way to achieving all of our goals. Iran enters these negotiations while it is beaten, while it is weaker than ever. It committed to opening the Strait of Hormuz after it waived all the preconditions it had set. It waived the lifting of sanctions, receiving compensation, a final end to the war, and also a ceasefire in Lebanon. While Iran is weaker than ever, Israel is as strong as it has never been before. 6 weeks ago, for the first time in history, we went to war shoulder to shoulder with my friend President Trump and our great ally, the United States. We set out on a historic operation, the greatest operation the Middle East has ever known. Such a thing had never happened in Israel's history. Such a partnership between Israel and the United States against our greatest enemy. It, too, had never existed in Israel's history. And yes, I can reassure those worried about the relationship between me and President Trump. How did he put it? You guys are great. We talk every day, and we smile when we hear his assessments. In any case, whoever chooses to ignore the strength of this partnership is simply ignoring the truth. As American Secretary of Defense Pete said today, the appreciation for Israel as an ally on the battlefield, the appreciation for our heroism, our courage, our skill. This appreciation is sky high. President Trump, Donald, my friend, I want to thank you for your leadership and your friendship. The deep friendship between us, the deep friendship between the United States and Israel, is changing the face of the Middle East. We set out together to remove an existential threat from the State of Israel and from the entire free world. And we are carrying out this mission, we are carrying it out step by step, goal by goal. If we hadn't gone out for dogs, people, and later if we hadn't gone out for lions roar, Iran would have long ago had nuclear weapons, and Iran would have had many thousands of missiles to destroy Israel and threaten the existence of us all. This dual existential threat we have removed from over our heads. We have set the terror regime in Iran back many years. We have undermined its foundations. We have crushed it. So what have we achieved up to this moment? We have shattered Iran's missile production machine. We didn't just destroy existing missiles, we destroyed the factories that produce them. And the Iranians are firing what's left in their magazine. That magazine is emptying out, and they are not producing new missiles. We hit Iran's nuclear program hard. We destroyed many nuclear facilities, centrifuge plants, and furthermore, we eliminated more nuclear scientists who joined those we eliminated in the past. Regarding the enriched material still left in Iran, as senior Trump administration officials said today, the enriched material will all leave Iran. Either it will leave by agreement, or it will leave through a resumption of fighting, and we see eye to eye on this issue. We crushed the money machine and the weapons production machine of the Revolutionary Guards. We destroyed steel plants, petrochemical plants, weapons manufacturing plants, supply lines, and railways for transporting forces and weapons. We destroyed military infrastructure, the Iranian Navy, dozens of aircraft, missile bases, and headquarters. We hit the regime's apparatus of repression hard and eliminated thousands of its operatives. And we have proven it. We proved that we can hunt them down anywhere, they have nowhere to hide. We eliminated the senior figures of the regime, from the tyrant Khamenei to the commanders of the Revolutionary Guards and the besieged. As a result of Israel's determination and strength and determination that everyone in the Middle East sees, we are forging new alliances with countries in the region. Now, I insisted that the temporary ceasefire with Iran would not include Hezbollah, and we continue to strike it with force. Today, we delivered to Hezbollah the biggest blow it has suffered since the pagers. We attacked 100 targets in 10 minutes in places Hezbollah was sure were immune. Wonderful residents of the North, we are committed to restoring your security. We have created deep security zones beyond our borders in Lebanon, in Syria, and in Gaza. There, we control more than half of the Strip and are strangling Hamas from every side. Citizens of Israel, whoever tries to ignore these immense achievements of the State of Israel and the soldiers of Israel, whoever tries to downplay them, either doesn't know what they are talking about, or is speaking out of ulterior motives. Because the truth is simple. As I promised you, back at the beginning of the War of Revival, we have dramatically changed the face of the Middle East to Israel's advantage. And we will continue to do so because we are the initiating side, we are the fighting side, and with God's help, we are the winning side. Happy Mimuna, citizens of Israel, a holiday of Israeli unity. Tarbachu Vatizadu.
Earlier today, one thing we talked about was civic engagement, and
okay, so yeah, there wasn't anything really groundbreaking there. It's just Netanyahu being Netanyahu and aligning himself with Trump. Okay, so let's look at a few other things before we get out of here, because again, like I said, it's going to be kind of a short little powwow here. Trump's Truth Social. So he's put out a few posts in the past few hours since we convened for Breaking History. I don't know why it's acting like I'm not authenticated. Okay, so right here he says, 8 hours ago, he said, a country supplying military weapons to Iran will be immediately tariffed on any and all goods sold to the U.S., sold to the United States of America, 50% effective immediately. There will be no exclusions or exemptions. President DJT, I mean, that would be Russia, I would assume, but they're already sanctioned up to their eyeballs by the U.S. Okay, and then so he is taking a picture of Lindsey Graham's post and posting it himself. It says, Lindsey Graham, I just had a great conversation with POTUS. I totally support his ultimatum to the uranium regime to open up the Strait of Hormuz and do a peace deal. A massive military operation awaits Iran if they choose poorly. This regime has been severely crippled through Operation Epic Fury. Their reign of terror against the region and the world needs to come to an end, hopefully through a peace deal. After speaking with President Trump this morning, I'm completely convinced that he will use overwhelming military force against the regime if they continue to impede the Strait of Hormuz and refuse a diplomatic solution to achieve our military objectives. It's not clear to Iran and others by now that President Trump means what he says. If it's not clear to them, then I don't know what it will ever be. Choose wisely. Now, this is from April 4th, 4 days ago. If we go and we look at Lindsey Graham's most recent posts, he's not quite singing the same song. And I think it's interesting that Trump is choosing to post something that he shared like 4 days ago. X is going super slow. Hopefully that's not just the internet in general. I wonder if X is down. X appears to be down for me. I'm checking online. Yeah, it says Twitter's down. Twitter and X are down. Well, that's disappointing. I guess we'll have to just wing it then. Let me see if I already had that. I might have already had that. Wait, is it back up now? I might have already had that post pulled up. Hold on. All right, here we go. I got it. I got it up and working now. Okay. So Lindsey Graham most recently put out, he said, no, not that one. Okay, so 6 hours ago, again, a diplomatic solution to the end of the reign of terror in Iran is the preferred outcome. The supposed negotiating document, in my view, has some troubling aspects, but time will tell. I look forward to the architect of this proposal, the vice president, and others coming forward to Congress and explaining how a negotiated deal meets our national security objectives in Iran. As President Donald Trump said this morning, all the highly enriched uranium must be removed from Iran and handed over to the United States. The Libyan model, allowing the Libyan model, yeah, that's funny. Allowing this regime to enrich in the future would be an affront to all those murdered by the regime since the war started and would be inconsistent with denying Iran a pathway toward a bomb in the future. That is why I strongly support President Trump's statement today: no enrichment for uranium, or no enrichment for Iran. Many countries have peaceful nuclear power, but do not enrich uranium. At a minimum, that should be the case for Iran. To those who say Iran needs to save face by having a small enrichment program, I'm not remotely interested in providing face-saving cover to a regime that murders its own people, beats a 16-year-old girl to death for not wearing a headscarf appropriately, and is dripping in American blood. Yeah, okay, that's all propaganda. And then last night he posted, as I stated before, I prefer diplomacy if it leads to the right outcome regarding the Iranian terrorist regime. I appreciate all the hard work of all involved in trying to find a diplomatic solution. At this early stage, I'm extremely cautious regarding what is fact versus fiction or misrepresentation. That's why a congressional review process like the one the Senate followed to test the Obama-Iranian deal is a sound way forward. Fair and challenging questions with a full opportunity to explain, and a healthy dose of sunlight is generally the right formula to understand any matter. Simply put, kick the tires. So what he's saying is we need to interrogate President Trump for what this is, because he doesn't trust that President Trump is actually acting in Israel's interest. That's what he's accusing him of. It's very important to understand what Lindsey Graham is doing here. He's absolutely subverting President Trump. No doubt in my mind that that's what this is. Okay. We have Italy accusing Israeli forces of firing at a UN convoy in Lebanon. This is from today. Israeli forces fired warning shots at a convoy of Italian UN peacekeepers in Lebanon on Wednesday, damaging at least one vehicle but causing no injuries, the Italian government said. this is notable because, of course, Italy, I think, is very important member of the Sovereign Alliance. So the fact that they're the ones calling out Israel here is notable. If we go back to President Trump's True Social, he said 3 hours ago, numerous agreements, lists, and letters are being sent out by people that have absolutely nothing to do with the USA-Iran negotiations. In many cases, they are total fraudsters, charlatans, and worse. They will be rapidly exposed after our federal investigation is complete. There is only one group of meaningful points that are acceptable to the United States, and we will be discussing them behind closed doors during these negotiations. These are the points that are the basis on which we agreed to a ceasefire. It is something that is reasonable and can easily be dispensed with. It's very much like fake news CNN last night, headlining a source that had no power or authority to write a letter claiming great authority, President Donald J. Trump. So he's basically saying that everyone out there is lying right now. They don't know anything. Only through back channels, behind closed doors, only Trump and Iran actually know what they're agreeing to. And it sounds like the agreement's still in place. So I think when he talks about somebody being subversive behind closed doors, or not behind closed doors, on CNN, he's referring to that the Israeli journalist that Cancon and I mentioned on Badlands Daily this morning. Let me see, Israeli journalist, CNN. Trump, and that's let me see, where is it? The guy who leaked I'm just trying to find the right one that actually names the guy. Amit Segal. Okay, so Trump said the U.S. will jail the person who leaked the information about the first F-15 pilot being rescued. Of course, the leaker of the first F-15 pilot was Israeli journalist Amit Segal, by his own admission on his Telegram channel. And this person says nothing will happen to him, but so here's his Telegram channel. He says, as you may recall, this was published here first. I think the Jerusalem Post actually wrote about this over the weekend and said that it was an Israeli journalist who was very quick to disclose the facts around that F-15 pilot that was then published by CNN. So again, we'll see. It'd be interesting if Trump actually did do something to this guy. He seems to be threatening CNN, though, and the leakers. And again, the allegations are circulating on social media is that Netanyahu had something to do with that this guy, Amit Segal, has a connection to Netanyahu. So we'll see if that plays out. But yeah, it is what it is. Anything else here? So Caroline Leavitt did a press conference earlier, and she appears to walk back U.S. President Donald Trump's comments expressing interest in charging tolls for passage through the Strait of Hormuz. Quote, it's something that the president has floated, but the immediate priority of the president is the reopening of the strait without any limitations, whether in the form of tolls or otherwise, Leavitt said during a press briefing. She also confirms China's involvement in the negotiations yesterday that resulted in a 2-week ceasefire. Quote, these were conversations that took place between top levels of our government and China's government. The president has great respect for President Xi and a great working relationship with him and with that country. He looks forward to visiting China in just a few weeks. Leavitt is asked about Trump's claim earlier today that Iran will dig up its stockpiles of highly enriched uranium and whether that is something Tehran has actually agreed to do. Quote, this is on the top of the priority list for the president and his negotiating team as they head into these next round of discussions. Leavitt responds, she has pressed again on whether Iran has actually indicated that it is prepared to hand over the uranium stockpiles, and Leavitt responds, they have. Leavitt declared another sharp rebuke of NATO allies, echoing Trump's sentiment that they failed during the crisis. Quote, it's quite sad that NATO turned their backs on the American people over the course of the last 6 weeks, Leavitt says, adding that the issue will be discussed later today during Trump's meeting with NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte. So, yeah, I mean, again, kind of recapping everything. Let's just do a recap. because this is the well, wait, before you do a recap, last one, Yair Lapid. So now the Israelis are all starting to fight one another. All right. I mentioned this earlier. The knives are all out for Netanyahu, and Yair Lapid is starting to respond to all of his detractors. So he is responding to Bezalel Smotrich. So Bezalel Smotrich posted a picture of Yair Lapid, Naftali Bennett, and I don't know who this person is over here. This might be Ronan Bar, the former Shin Bet leader, if I'm not mistaken. It could be Yair Golan, maybe. But he says, update for national suppressors. Tonight we're eating mufletas, not pickles, blessings, and enjoy your meal. I have no idea what that means. It must be a Jewish thing. And then the response from Yair Lapid is, Mr. Smotrich, go forth and multiply. Is that also what you said to the Haredim when you transferred 5 billion shekels to the draft dodgers that you stole from the funds of the reserve soldiers? What weakened the state was the October 7th debacle, the strategic failure against Iran, and the fact that you didn't bother to deal with sheltering, education, and compensation for citizens during the war. So it's very clear now that whatever is actually happening with Iran and the Strait of Hormuz and whatever, the narrative there, it's very clear that in Israel, they view this as over. Like the U.S. involvement with Iran, as we have understood it to this point, seems to be over. If it wasn't over, Yair Lapid would not be attacking Netanyahu's administration the way he is now. So that seems to be what is happening here. And again, this is all posturing for their election coming up in October, but it's important to understand that that's the element. That's the dynamic that's happening here. So let's recap everything from this morning on, like all the different shows I've been on, what I think is happening. I think that, again, this is just kind of a wild theory. Don't know if I'm right or not wrong, but it's just my gut, is that I think the fourth PSYOP group is running a PSYOP against Mossad. They have given Mossad manipulated intel, manipulated the satellite imagery to make Mossad think that the U.S. is actually in a conflict with Iran. Mossad then runs that through their analysts. The analysts give them reports. The reports go to the White House, and they then give guidance to the White House, the CIA, etc., on what they should do. And then the White House then turns around and says, okay, thank you for the reports. As per normal, we will now act on the reports. And then the U.S., Trump says we've bombed a bunch of things in Iran, manipulated satellite imagery, manipulated intel from these satellites is then fed back to Mossad. And it's basically like a big loop. It's a feedback loop of bullshit. And the net effect being that Mossad is getting bad intel. The bad intel is driving them to think that there's a war happening between the U.S. and Israel, in Iran. Israel is also attacking Iran. Iran is attacking Israel. And again, this is Trump waging a war against Israel using Iran as his proxy. I could be completely wrong about that, but that's my suspicion. The fact that Trump is cool with Israel continuing the war in Lebanon, while Iran and Pakistan clearly are not cool with that, tells me that that's just Trump basically inching away from the situation and like taking the off ramp. He's exiting the stage and he's kind of leaving Israel to fight these various groups on their own. There's no way that Israel can defeat Iran. Iran is going to crush Israel if they fight them alone. Surely Netanyahu probably knows that, but who knows what happens next? I would assume that we're going to see false flags. We're going to see all sorts of reasons why the U.S. needs to get back involved with this and needs to fight Iran again. But again, I think that Trump and Iran are just working together. I think that's always been the thing. China and Russia are obviously backing Iran. The Arabs appear to be sitting on the sideline. They're not going to get involved. And the Turks, of course, are also helping to facilitate. And to that point, we have Shehbaz Sharif. This is the Prime Minister of Pakistan. And he says, tonight, I had an extremely warm and sincere phone conversation with my dear brother, President Recep Tayyip Erdogan. I am grateful to President Erdogan for his encouraging and supportive kind words during Pakistan's modest and sincere efforts for regional peace. In line with our common goal of achieving lasting peace in the region, we will continue to work tirelessly together with our friends and partners, especially Turkey. And again, this is like, remember the security architecture, the map we drew of the fortress. Turkey was one, Pakistan was one, Egypt was one. Those are the three walls that box in the Middle East. And those three walls are talking to one another, with Saudi Arabia being the linchpin that holds it all together. And again, I think we're going to see Iran kind of join the Middle East as part of their network. And you're kind of starting to see that happen. Pakistan is bringing Iran into the fold, and Trump is giving that it's his blessing. And there's going to be a lot of rage coming out of the American establishment over that. All right, guys. Let's see. I'm going to play a quick GART ad before we get out of here.
Patriots, the fight for truth doesn't stop at the screen. It's hitting the road again. Badlands Media is rolling into Nashville on April 9th through 12th for the next stop on the Great American Restoration Tour. Join your favorite Badlands hosts and like-minded Americans for 3 powerful days. Packed with unfiltered discussions, deep dive panels, and real debate. Hear the raw truth, ask the tough questions. No topic too hot, no question too bold. GART is where our community comes alive. Tickets are on sale now at badlandsmedia.tv/GART, where you can also grab a virtual pass and watch from home. Join us to question narratives and fight for America's future. Nashville is calling. The restoration continues. Get your passes today. See you in Music City.
All right. Yep. badlandsmedia.tv/events. Looking forward to seeing everybody there. We have a rant from Heather Jones. Hey, Heather, $20. Thank you for sharing your knowledge and your time with us, Ghost. We appreciate you. I appreciate you, Heather, for your support. And yeah, guys, hit the thumbs up, share the show. I'm going to be in Nashville at GART this weekend, so won't be around. But looking forward to seeing everybody there, and also virtual ticket holders. Hop in the chat, hop in the Telegram, and interact with us. So looking forward to it. Thanks for joining me. Told you it would be a short episode today, and looking forward to seeing what happens next. Let's see. Don't have an outro video set. Here it is. All right, guys, you have a good day.
Thank you so much for joining us, and don't forget to hit the thumbs up on this video. And a special thank you to all of our advertising partners. Please remember to shift your dollars to support those businesses that support Badlands Media.